All right, welcome back, everyone. Another episode, 160. Only 40 more to 200. Give us 2 years, we'll be there. So,
yeah,
exciting times. So, I think you and I are both in a predicament where we've been equally busy with life between episodes. I got to go to, I think if you're a longtime listener, my favorite place in the Midwest, a town that I just appreciate very much for a week's worth of work. And that is Omaha, Nebraska.
I think we could claim that if we wanted to like get rid of them from the Midwest.
Can we get rid of them?
I think we could.
Just push them into the river. Yeah. So I got to go back there for a week's worth of work. It was one of those deals where there's like a conference and I had to go down with a car full of people. As many of you might know listening to this podcast, I'm an extreme introvert, and prolonged social interaction, let alone forced human interaction, is increasingly irritating to me and not my forte. I'm still exhausted. I feel like I should get a gold star from my employer for just like surviving it. But yeah, then I got to spend time in lovely, dilapidated Omaha. I'm gonna do something here. I'm gonna slightly apologize to Omahaians. I spent a week in your downtown. For a Midwest air quote here, you can't see it if you're not watching the video. Air quote city. I like your downtown. That's the nicest thing you're gonna get from me.
Is that by the old market or something like that?
Yes, there's like the old market down there and like that walking area. There's the whole event center. There's lots of like bars and brew pubs and good restaurants. It's an all right place to be outside in the summer, in the Midwest in a city. So yeah. And actually I hadn't realized, like it dawned on me, like cause I was wandering around one night that like, oh yeah, we totally like game hunted that old market downtown area. And like the one restaurant I went into too, like I ordered the fish and chips. I'm like, this feels oddly familiar. I'm like, oh yeah, Andy and I did this like 10 fucking years ago. But yeah, so
the last time I was in that area. Yeah,
me too. It was brutal, man. Like, so not only was it like all day conferences, but like some of these our business partners and like vendors and stuff were like scheduling meetings. So like shit was going on to like 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night.
Jeez.
So it wasn't just getting done. And then I like my job and my coworkers, but I had to travel down there with 4 women on Tuesday coming off of a holiday weekend. So by Thursday afternoon, I was wrapping up the afternoon conferences, and there was supposed to be like an immediate happy hour after this. And then an hour break and another happy hour that picked up from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. And I just looked at the lady next to me and I was like, I need to just fuck right off right now. And I was basically like, I need to not be around any of you. I need some space. There are breweries downtown. I'm going on a walking brewery tour. Like no invites, not like, hey, we should all go. Cause like, that was the thing is everything I did. Like I wanted to go to like Pop Culture Exchange, which I got to go to. People piled in the car. I was like, who wants to go see this crap? But me, nobody. Why are we doing this? So by Thursday, I was just like, over it. But yeah, there's 3 breweries all within walking distance. I just did like a flight, so it wasn't like a lot of beer because I had to have my shit together for the meetings later on that night. But like I've never been so much happier to be alone than I was that night. It was pretty glorious. Not saying anything of my colleagues. This is just that whole situation is my personal hell. And if I can't just like break out of like interactions and get some space, I just tend to energy vampire situations. Like it's not good,
Right. Well, it's always the worst. Like when you have a drive like that and it is awful, then you know that you have that drive back. You are going to do that same thing again.
Mm-hmm.
It just and you're gonna hangs over you.
Right. And you're gonna have to have something to say to those people at the end of that week for 6 hours in a car.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm pretty sure I picked up a con flu or something. Like my stomach has been just sour since I got back, and I kind of just slept most of the weekend. I just needed to recover, but whatever. I'm on vacation next week, so that's fine. But this brings me into a fantastic story, a story that is going to get our listeners on the edge of their seats.
Ooh.
So, after driving myself 6 hours straight back from Omaha, with a car full of people, I then had to drop these people off on Friday night, which I don't mind. It's fine. My wife was watching our nephew anyway, so nobody was at home for me. So it was not a big deal. I've already been in the car all day. I drop a coworker off, and I have one left. I've got one more to drop off. And as I'm backing out of the driveway, I see one of those like weird little corner signs like you see for garage sales. Only this one is like, I don't know, 4 feet high, 2 feet wide, big yellow paper. You know what it says on it?
What's this?
Gamer garage sale. Friday, 4 to 8 p.m. I look down. It's 6 p.m., a little after. My mind is immediately racing. I look over at my coworker, explain to her that she is now a hostage and she has no choice.
Did you just kick her out?
Nope. I was like, I don't give a shit what you have planned. You are now in this thing with me. I'm going, right? Like, I know you got places to be, but it's not going to happen now. So I'm jacked because, well, I've been miserable. Like, I'm exhausted. I want to go, like, again, you know where my headspace is at. And then immediately I'm like,
is this like a mirage thing? Like after a long weekend, are you just like hallucinating this?
Yeah, like it's too good to be true, right? So like, I'm like, all right, there's gonna be like all sorts of stuff. Like, even if it's overpriced, I'm gonna see things. You know, I didn't care because like garage sales are what they are now.
Mm-hmm.
So I go down the street, I see this thing, I pull over, I make my colleague get out. I was like, sorry, you're coming, and we walk up to this table, 3 middle-aged dudes. Garage full, like 4 tables full of board games.
Did they saw you coming? They're like, got another one. We got him.
Yeah, I wanted to be like, there's a critical word that you put in front of gamer garage. It starts with a B. Let's say board. Maybe you can do tabletop if you want to get fancy. But yeah, I talk about like the highest high to the most crushing defeat all within about 5 minutes. And granted, these were like not just like, you know, Monopoly. These are like guys who were into tabletops. There's like specialized games. They were probably insane deals.
I would have loved to be there, but yeah.
Right. Yeah. A lot of people would have, but I was just like so pissed at that point. Just looking across this table, I'm just like, I need to get out of here before like I grab one of these people and just like snap them over my thigh and like cripple them, you know? So yeah, that was the fitting end, I felt like, to a long work trip.
See, we're e-gamers. We're e-gamers, remember? So we have to look for the e-gamers.
I explained that exact story to my son. He's like, why would they call it that? I was like, you want to know what these board game people call video games? They call them e-gaming. He's like, that's stupid. I was like, I agree. I'm like, they make their own rules. I don't know what it is. So yeah, that was rough, but pretty hilarious too.
That's yeah. Wow. What are the odds of that? You know, a gamer sale.
Right.
Wow.
And in the back of my head, I kind of had the idea that might be a possibility, but like to call it a gamer sale is so misleading.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, you're a gamer to the 10% of the population that views that as gamer, but for everybody else.
But there was like nothing else. Like there wasn't anything.
Comics. There was like 2 bins of comics.
Okay.
Huh. And they were decent comics too. But again, so pissed off. All I could do was like kind of just storm out of there.
Jeez.
So
I would have figured the crossover on that is pretty high, that they would at least have something there. But
right.
Wow.
A game or two. And maybe, I mean, it was 4 to 8 and I got there at 6, possibly. But their tables were plumb full. So I don't know where they would have put the games, but yeah. It was a rough one.
I can't say I've ever been to a board game garage sale. So
you missed out.
Congrats. Yeah.
Thank you.
How was Pop Culture Exchange?
Amazingly cool as always. First time I've been there though, that I would say it's pretty normal for them to have some holy grail video game stuff, like some super rare collectible items. This is the first time I've been there where I can say that they had nothing high end,
Hmm.
nothing Jaguar, nothing outside of like traditional consoles. They had some really overpriced box NES games. I think I want to say Super Mario 3 was like $169 in the box. But yeah, store was really cool. I bought a couple things, bullshit with the owner a little bit, but I didn't spend as much time in there as I would have had I not had
Right.
people accompanying me. I found an album that we'll talk about later on in there. But yeah, still love that store. I mean, you just can't beat it. You could spend hours in there because it's just so full of stuff. You miss so many things the first couple passes. But yeah, Pop Culture Exchange is great. I really wanted to get to D Wolves, but I didn't know about like taking a bunch of women to a store
That
attached to
area.
a strip club in like the part where we might all get stabbed to death, you know?
Yeah.
Because I haven't been to
What?
D Wolves in
Oh yeah.
5 years. Like I'm
Yeah.
curious what his store is like right now. So
I haven't been there since I bought my Jaguar there.
yeah, it was my last time too.
Yeah.
Yep. It's crazy. Yeah. I don't know. You know what else is crazy? Unity. Did you hear this news?
Yeah, so what's the deal? They're charging developers for every install?
Yes, but it appears to be unit threshold. So it's installs, and if you're not partnered, starting at like 200,000, then you pay a per unit, per install price at like a set amount, and then there's variable rates depending on if you're a partner or what tier you're at. But like some of these indie devs were saying, like that doesn't fit the business model anymore. Because if I'm an indie dev and I want to partner with Game Pass that has 25 million subscribers, I'm going to hit that threshold so fast and so hard with the monetary compensation that it could bankrupt our studio. You know what I mean? I was like,
Yeah.
that's an excellent point. You know what I mean?
So is it based off of your revenue though? So
Right. It's based off of like units shipped essentially. Like installs or units shipped is how I read it.
okay. So if
So
you're
like,
making some revenue, at least
yeah,
you should be profitable.
but it's sort of greedy to be like, hey, I see you're doing real good. Let us get a cut of that too. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And considering Unity is like such a popular engine and like works so well cross platform, but like, I don't know, the Unreal Engine's also real good, works real good across platform, and they're not
Mm-hmm.
doing that. So I wonder like how much this is actually hurting Unity.
Yeah, I think once Unity kind of got as big as it did because of how easy it is to develop in it and how free and open source it kind of was to some extent. Now, if you are continuing to keep adding layers on top of that, well, yeah, people are just going to, it's like, okay, well, I guess I will actually put the time in and learn Unreal then,
Right.
which is obviously the better engine at this point.
Right. Yeah, it just comes off as greedy just because like it's on the tail end of like a success. You know what I mean? Like if it was like, okay, we're charging this like flat percentage, like it's 100th of a cent for every install, like over time, but like it's just like, no, here's where the threshold kicks.
Mm-hmm.
And then we know you have money, so we should have it too. And I don't
Well,
know.
and
like
they
for a
already have a
development
revenue
tool.
share.
Right, exactly. For a development tool where it's like, no, like you pay for the upfront use of it to make the thing. You shouldn't have to pay because your thing did good and it run, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
It used to be just a single license that you bought.
right.
You own the software,
Right. Yeah, which they're claiming is like, well, we need the revenue for like iteration and stuff. It's like, okay, well, I mean, go to an annual subscription model though. Don't go to like a units model. I mean, I don't know. Or do something like when when a game goes gold, like there's some, I don't know. It just comes off real bad, and the internet seemed real pissed.
Yeah, I could definitely see this being a huge problem to, especially free to play. I can't even imagine.
Right. You're not making money on those installs, so now you're losing money on them.
Yeah, that's messes up the entire economy that you were basing that on.
Yeah,
that would mess up pretty bad. I don't know if I've heard if the Game Pass stuff, if Microsoft is paying that, because it made it sound like Microsoft is on the hook for all of that. Then
maybe that's interesting. I hadn't considered that, but then they're gonna like have to consider that when they're paying devs to put the game up there. Then like, well, we'll have to pay you less because we're now getting hit by Unity. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And what I've already heard is like some games do really well from being on Game Pass, but some like lose tons of money, for the exposure.
Yeah.
If you don't have a tail end after Game Pass, that sucks.
Yeah, imagine all those, for every Rocket League out there, there's another one that tries to do the same thing and it doesn't, People, I'm guilty of it. I'll install it the first week it comes out and then it sits on my hard drive and never play it until it gets deleted at some point, Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I've done that with several things.
Yeah, that's wild. The amount of ways that companies are trying to
make a buck,
nickel and dime everything. Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. So speaking of Game Pass, you played like the most worthwhile game on Game Pass this year, right?
I bought a Game Pass game.
You physically purchased Starfield.
I did not physically purchase it. I digitally purchased an upgrade to a Game Pass game that I do not own.
How much was the upgrade?
It was $35, I think.
And what did that get you?
The main reason I bought it is we just bought a new home, so we've been moving this last week or so. But they timed this right. They knew what they were doing here. By if you get this upgrade, you could play it 5 days earlier, which was Labor Day weekend. So you got to play all of Labor Day weekend.
Okay.
With this upgrade. And knowing that what the shit show would be after, you buy a house, it was like, well, I guess I'm paying money to play this game that I was going to get free for 5 days.
It's going to be weeks before I can get back to it. It's kind of your thinking.
Kind of, yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So they got me. But
was it worth it?
Yeah, it was kind of nice actually, because I actually had not a lot going on that weekend anyway. So because it was so miserably hot anyway.
Oh yeah.
That it wasn't worth. It was hardly worth doing anything. But yeah, I got to play a lot of that game, and I was pretty excited for it. I was pretty hyped for it, and I think I'm having fun. It met my level of what I wanted it to, I guess. But then there's parts of it like, why did you even put this part in? What with, being an inferior part?
It's supposed to be polished though, the least buggy.
Yeah. Oh boy, I have seen some bugs. There are people cruising all over the place, flying in the sky, and there's a lot of
NPCs.
A lot of NPCs in this game. Okay. So like there's probably some collision detection that gets messed up in the math and then they go crazy. But
I saw there's somewhere in the open world where you can go to a city and like access the inventory for the entire city and just like cache it.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Like it just takes everything from like all the vendors and like and you can redo it. You can reloot every 24 hours, which is pretty amazing.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. This game is just one of those in space. They bolted on a little bit of No Man's Sky, which is not enough. I think that's where I'm like, why did you even kind of do this if you
couldn't do it better?
If you couldn't do it better with all the budget that you have and the size of team that you have, you know, they talk about all these planets and it's like, well, how much of this stuff is actually happening? Because first of all, you can't, you know, No Man's Sky is like you see a planet, you fly to the planet, land on the planet. This is no, you load into a planet and then it generates something.
It's so disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like given that their games are based on like endless exploration. I mean, granted, it's always been like on foot or whatever, you know, but that sucks.
And still, the biggest thing with these games, and I should have known this I should have gotten on PC, but the encumbrance on these games is just ridiculous. I have completely upgraded everything to the max that I can do, and I'm still constantly managing things to drop so I can pick something else up, and
I'm guessing it's clunky as fuck. Like I doubt they've like polished their inventory system.
You can put things on your companions, which just then they just stay there because you don't end up, you know,
going back.
When you never do the maintenance of taking things off of them, right? So they're always full when you needed them, and then you know you can put things on your ship, but that gets full too. And yeah, I don't know. There's so much. I mean, they let you pick up the most random stuff like pencils and notepads and just like everything in the game. And it's like, well, what's the point if you can't really hold any of it and it's not really worth selling? I don't know.
It's just like picking up junk for the sake of giving you the option to do it.
Yeah. I wish they would just narrow that shit down and not have a lot of that as an option to pick up, because then you can just like put up your scanner and then see the things that you can pick up and be like, okay, these are the things that are valuable and you want, you know?
Right.
But I don't know how much time I'm like looking at every counter, because there might be a magazine that gives you a permanent upgrade or something. So you're like scanning every countertop and, you know, every
to sift through
building.
All shit.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I don't know. That stuff gets old pretty quick, but it's got the same hook that all this stuff does, you know, the exploring.
Right.
Go to. I will say the generated stuff is interesting if the first few times you do it, because when you land on something, there'll be like buildings that you can go in, and then there'll be people in there and stuff you can unlock and, you know, stuff like that. But it's not, none of it's real story driven. Most of it's like, you know, some generic miners at an outpost saying, oh, these pirates over there are doing something, can you go clear them out, you know?
So it's like finding a Minecraft village. Like it's cool because you're getting resources, but
yeah,
if they all died, you wouldn't give a shit either.
Yeah it's there's a lot of that.
Can you breed them, the villagers? Not you personally, but can you make them mate with each other?
I don't know. I mean,
okay.
I mean, on the PC, who knows? There's
that's true. Yes.
Probably videos up about that. So
yeah.
I'm the main story. I'm not. I've heard that you should probably just go with the main story and really get forward, but I have such a problem with that, even with Breath of the Wild. But or, you know, Zelda is, you just kind of wander around. But yeah, I'm completing a lot of side quests, stuff like that, and the writing on it is all right. Every once in a while, you get a pretty good side quest, but most of it's pretty generic.
Yeah, that's some of the complaints I've heard too. Is that like exploring the edges and like going out of your way isn't rewarded well, at least currently in that game.
Yeah,
which is a bummer.
And I'm really interested because right now I'm, you know, in in the main solar systems that they've really
Fleshed out.
put the cities and all the stories and all the characters in. Like, but they also say you have thousands of stars to go to. So like what's happening in those other ones? Is it just blank things that you go down there and it's just generated stuff that's of nothingness? I don't know.
How many hours do you think you're in?
I probably have 40 hours in already. I played quite a bit.
I've heard of people beating it in like 60.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Explore, I suppose.
Yeah, like I'm hardly that far into the main story. Okay. So, which I know I'm going to kick myself later and be like, oh, I should have done the main story, because this is where you get all the main big XP and get all your levels and, you know, maybe some good equipment and stuff like that.
Do you think this is enough to help Xbox claw back, or do you think this is just not going to do much to tip the scales?
It's not going to be the thing that Skyrim was, I don't think.
So you don't think this will sell consoles by any means?
I don't think so, because I mean, most people know what this is at this point. You know, once you get into it, it's like, oh, this is what this is. It's this thing.
Yeah.
Except they've made it infinite instead of really fleshing out everything. And even Fallout was too much like that.
Right.
When you're going into a city in Fallout and you're checking every building and stuff like that, that just gets to be, it's too non-linear, you know.
Well, and changing the environment around that loop doesn't really change the loop, you know.
Yeah, at least in like Zelda, you know, there's points of interest that you can see. Like you're kind of guided by dots of interest along the way. In these areas, it's like, here's a bunch of shit just dumped on you.
Yeah, that sucks. Because that's like, even in like a Zelda situation, like I hate those, like coming across some of those larger villages where it's like, I just don't want to do that right now. Like, I just, you know what I mean? And that's light compared to what you're doing in a game like this, you know?
Yeah, Starfield's, you know, times 10 of that, because there's every person you meet damn near has a quest that they want you to do, you know? I don't know. I'm going to play it a lot more. I'm sure of that, and I'll probably get to the end of it. I didn't beat Fallout 4, so who knows? Maybe I will burn out on it, but
well, at least you're enjoying it so far, I guess. That's all that really matters.
I bought the DLC. It comes with the DLC, so I guess I have to play that too. So
yeah. Well, speaking of DLC, and a game we touched on already through this conversation was Tears of the Kingdom. You know, I've told many people that I have no intention of picking that game up again until the DLC, and then Nintendo went ahead and said on record that they have no intention of doing DLC because they added everything already, and that made me a little sad for them to like officially state that so close to that game being out.
Did you do any of the Breath of the Wild stuff?
No, my son has many times over.
Okay. I don't know what that entailed other than the motorcycle.
There's the Coliseum, the motorcycle, like some extra challenge quests, like master mode. But it wasn't a ton, but it was enough to get back in, like play around. Because like I feel like I was waiting for the DLC because I need that little like spark of something new for me to like want to get back into it. And I don't know, I'm kind of sad that like one of the greatest games ever is not going to get anything else added to it. Mm-hmm. I still think it leaves that could be left open to interpretation, where on the next console there's a definitive edition of Tears of the Kingdom exclusive to Switch 2, but who knows?
I could, making a section that you have to really do some hardcore crafting of those things and really like figure out a really interesting puzzle.
Yeah, or even like a small arena mode and stuff. Like I just felt like there was so much possibility with that for DLC content that it blows my mind that they think they don't need to add that.
Mm-hmm. I like the idea of some, those shrines where they strip you naked.
I hate those ones.
You don't? I like those ones where you kind of have to build yourself up a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that would be fun on a grander scale, is where you have to like semi build up your arsenal.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that as kind of like a challenge mode. And that's kind of how the DLC was in Breath of the Wild, where like that Coliseum was like that. Like,
okay,
it was all about like your resources carried forward and you entered with none. So it was all about picking up, using it sparsely, like scavenging from trees. So yeah.
Oh sure.
But they could definitely elaborate on that and then incorporate the Zonai devices for sure. Which I really thought that's what the DLC would focus around. It was like, even if it didn't go multiplayer, like something building based.
Be cool to get like an infinite battery.
Yeah.
Actually be able to fly one end to the other, that'd be cool.
Yeah, that's true. It'd be cool to have something like big to try and unlock like that. But I guess it's not to be.
No. We are going to find out tomorrow, right?
Well, what do you think?
By the time you listen,
yeah.
By the time this comes out, I suppose everybody knows what happened. But
the 9/14 Direct is what you're talking about, which is supposed to focus on games coming out yet this winter. So probably no new information.
I don't know what's coming out this winter.
Wonder. I mean,
they just did one on that, right? They just did a whole Direct.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Not DLC for Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah, what is there?
Mario RPG, but I mean, it's like, well, what?
Okay, yeah.
What do you really go? What do you really deep dive on that? Because it's a remake. I think there's a WarioWare.
Oh, really? Another one?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the sequel to Smooth Moves, right?
Yeah.
That'll be good. Yeah, they don't got much. Maybe they'll tease like new console, because that was rumored, right? They would talk new console.
Apparently, they were showing it off behind closed doors.
Yeah, that's what
at
I heard
the Gamescom, but
4K 60 FPS. I heard it was also on like replicated PC architecture. So I don't know.
Yeah. So it's like, well, yeah, somewhat targeted, but it's never going to be top of the line, right?
No.
They'll be lucky if this next Switch outperforms the current Steam Deck, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't even know that it will. Because, well, at least the screen won't be as good. But yeah, I'm curious to see what they show. I wasn't expecting another Direct so soon. It's funny because like that last one, like the Treehouse event or whatever, like I got that cousin who works for that company who partners with Nintendo, so he's just like sending me screenshots of them. Like it's like we're wrapping up like the live stream from the Treehouse, and like he had like a bunch of shit. He got to play like Wonder demos and stuff, get a bunch of keychains and stuff. I was like, you lucky bastard. I was like, I wish that was my job. But
that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. I'm jealous of the stuff he gets to go to. I wanted him to get us into E3, but now E3 is no more. So,
what are you talking about? It's moving to Vegas or something, right? It won't be happening this year, but they said they're going to make another one next year.
But nobody's going to come. The reason they didn't do it this year is because nobody came. So if Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft aren't going to be there, why are you doing E3? I mean, I'd argue that we don't need Summer Games Fest either, but Jeff Keighley's got to go at work, I guess. So. I don't know. Speaking of gaming news, too. Woo! iOS native ports of AAA games. Everybody's excited. iPhone 15, everybody.
Yep. Where's the controller?
Yeah, my thoughts exactly. When they're like, you're going to get native iOS. I'm like, who's going to pay $50 for a version of a game that's locked onto that? I'm like, you're so much better doing it through cloud. Yep. And I don't know. I mean, not that it's not cool. Like, it's great that the iPhone has come far enough that it can natively run like, in parity with like recent releases, but who's the psycho who's buying into that ecosystem? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I read that and they were like, of course it was like, well, the RE4 remake, which is like, okay, it's a remake, so it's not like the game has been ported to everything. But then they were like, Resident Evil Village. I'm like, of course Resident Evil jumps on. Like, as soon as they can port their games to like anything that will run it. But then I saw Far Cry, and there was one other one that caught my eye, and I was like, okay, well, that's neat. But yeah, I had the same thought. Like, so you're going to pair what? Like, I suppose you can probably pair an Xbox controller, and there's a backbone and stuff. But
yeah, they have that stuff. But those aren't the type of games that I want to play on a mobile anyway.
No, I mean, if you're the type of person who's getting into that, you have a Steam Deck.
Yeah.
I mean, really, the biggest news I think out of it, I mean, the gaming thing was the point I brought, but just the fact that they finally got like cornered into dropping proprietary charging bullshit, and now they have to use USB-C is kind of amazing.
Yep.
I was joking to my boss. I was like, now wait for the $1 fee for like pairing a Bluetooth device. I was like, they got to find somewhere to get this money. But yeah, good job on the EU being like, no, you guys are asshats. So I guess if they can't be asshats on that half of the world, they weren't going to be asshats here anymore. So I'm excited finally to like have a single charging cord format that literally works on like 99% of stuff now. So it's great.
Hey, Europe, can we get that headphone jack back too? That'd be nice.
Keep pushing for that. Yeah. I thought that was an interesting nugget to come out of that. Gaming forward, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't see too much beyond that. They didn't really get into their VR stuff, did they?
No, not really. I mean, it's the usual stuff. It was like hardware, USB-C, best cameras ever. So, yeah. I wouldn't even care to be on the cord thing, except the gaming thing I think was interesting. But I mean, it's like we were always going to get there, right? Like they're just small computers in your hand. Like, of course, they could run a game.
Yeah,
I mean, it just has to catch up, chip size and cost.
Right, and like you can run it at a smaller, less, detailed textures and stuff like that when it's on mobile too, because it looks the same when it's on a smaller screen.
I guarantee the back of those 15s get hot as fuck if you run a game like that.
Yeah,
because like just even watching YouTube on like the current stuff, it's like, man, this thing gets hot.
Yeah, I wonder the batteries. If you gamed on that thing all the time, I bet the battery's not gonna last very long.
No, there's not enough. I mean, yeah, there's no way to like get that heat away from that case efficiently. Probably gonna brick your phone. What else did I? Oh, I just had one last thing, I guess, unless you get some extra topics. But One Piece on Netflix. Did you catch that?
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
So have you watched through it, or?
Yeah, I've watched everything but the last episode. I got too tired and I was gonna do it before. But yeah, I never really. I'm not a One Piece anime fan. I've seen an episode or two, so I kind of get it. But yeah, it's really good. I like it. I mean, for what it is, it's nice to not be so invested in the anime version of it, so that I'm not offended by things people probably would be. What I like though is like just the fact like their casting and their actors are so good, because they got these people who just like play these dim-witted like sort of one-note anime characters as far as facial expressions and like gesturing, that they just like kind of nailed some of these characters in really kind of uncanny ways. It's pretty good in that regard. Other than that, it's the visuals are good. The One Piece story is kind of an easy one to plot a course on, right? Like, yeah, we're after treasure, we're pirates, bad things happen. Yeah. So yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. I just put it on because I was like, I'm aware of One Piece. We'll see what this is about. And yeah, I've liked it. My kids actually both got really into it too. So it probably skews younger, I'll be honest.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, the anime is kind of a blind spot for me. Like I haven't really seen any of it because honestly, it's just too intimidating once you know that there's like 900 and some seasons. Episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you can't really.
Right.
It doesn't even pay to like try and parse what's happening in that story then.
Yeah.
But from what I have gathered is that, he's kind of more of an immature character anyway, right? So
Yeah, he's a
childish
bratty,
character.
young adult. So
Yeah. So I could definitely see that. I enjoyed the Cowboy Bebop one, and they killed that one immediately. So
yeah,
I feel like I don't want to get hurt again.
that's exactly how I felt about this one. I was like, well, we're gonna hear it's canceled any day now.
Yeah.
I know it did really well, but it immediately fell to the top 10. I think this is better. I liked the Cowboy Bebop one a lot. I think this is better produced. I think it's a better series. I think they learned some things, but yeah, they threw a lot of money at it. Like nothing looks low budget in it. Most of it's probably green screen that I'm watching, but it's good looking green screen. So, and it's pretty funny, and the action's good. Kind of what you want.
The weird people, right? Weird characters.
Yeah,
always weird characters in that. Yeah,
weird characters. Yeah, there's the one clown boss guy, which after watching Metalocalypse again, I was just like, that's Dr. Roxo. Which, okay, not that this ties into it, but because Dr. Roxo is like the David Lee Roth, but that Snakes and Barrels that the one guy was in.
Pickles, right?
Yeah, Pickles from it was obviously Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
Why does Guns N' Roses have a new song? Why am I turning on the radio and hearing a new Guns N' Roses song?
I'm out of the loop.
I had no idea either. Apparently Axl's not fat anymore and can sing too.
Huh.
I don't know.
I know they did that tour for, well, it's been a few years now.
Yeah, I just assumed it was like a cash grab, but no, like new music apparently. Apparently another single's coming. Which I had no idea. I just was like, what am I listening to? I'm like, this is definitely Guns N' Roses. How come I've never heard this? I'm like, oh, this is a new Guns N' Roses song from like 3 weeks ago.
Jeez.
It's really weird.
Isn't that wild? That, I mean, for half of my lifetime, I feel like we've waited for Chinese Democracy to come out. And that was like highly anticipated for forever.
Right.
And then it was garbage when it actually came out. But now this is like, oh yeah, did you hear that came out? Nope, no idea.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. The rock world has basically like disappeared though since Chinese Democracy came out. Like,
yeah, they killed it.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah, rock music is like so out of favor. Like I think only a legacy act like Guns N' Roses could get away with like throwing like a not that great. I mean, it's fine. I'm not gonna. It's all right. It's more Guns N' Roses. Like only they could put something out there and get that on the radio. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, that's true. There's not many bands anymore. That and Metallica are basically the only two that you're gonna get any new. No matter what album they come out with, they're going to get their single on, right?
Yeah, I feel like even the new Foo Fighters record, like I know there's like 2 singles out now, but like I feel like that doesn't get in rotation. And they're like arguably the biggest, I mean, one of the biggest legacy acts out there. I don't know. I guess I consider them legacy at this point. They're up there with Metallica as far as like I think their career is well behind them. They just kind of keep putting out music, not in a bad sort of way like Weezer. But like in a we still care a little bit way, but we're old now and it's not as relevant sort of way. So yeah, I could have bought that at Pop Culture Exchange. They had Van Weezer on vinyl.
Oh boy!
I was like, nope. Why is this here? Nobody wanted it. Stop making 5 albums a year that all suck, please. I think they're just like, I think Weezer, we're way off. This rabbit hole's deep, but I honestly believe Weezer is going for the largest body of music produced throughout a career with the least number of quality tracks in that discography. I think they're trying to get it to like less than 1%, and they are dangerously close.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad.
That number is going to keep going down for sure because
Rivers can't just fucking stop.
Yeah,
keep touring. I don't care. We all want to hear the Blue Album, but we don't need more.
He doesn't want to play it anymore. I don't think.
Are there any more weirdly specific cover songs you want to do that sound exactly like the? Like I don't know if you know what a cover song should be. Like if you're not a cover band, have fun with it. But yes, weird rabbit hole aside, coming from One Piece. I don't know if If there's nothing else pressing, it might be time for staff picks.
Yeah.
So I'll let you go first.
Yeah, so I don't have much. I haven't been doing much other than playing Starfield and moving. So I can't have a very good recommendation off the top of my head until I was reminded on my Twitter feed, my X feed, sorry.
Formerly known as Twitter is how if you've been hearing
Yes.
it referred to.
There's a account named Dinosaur Dracula. I don't know if you're aware of this account, but I don't know how he's able to dedicate his life to this type of stuff, but he has just a billion different types of ephemera from like when we grew up. Like he'll have like wrappers from a Burger King from the 1995, and Happy Meal box toys.
God, I wonder if this is the guy. Maybe I saw one of his tweets today. It was like Wendy's back when Wendy's was yellow and like all the stuff was like yellow packaging. Might have been him.
Yeah, it very well could have been. Yeah, he just has a billion different. I mean, he has like standees of like Doritos from way back then,
and these are all like in his possession, like collection. Yeah, like, taking photos. Wow.
Yeah, he's taking photos of it. So, and just all the different weird cereals that have been, through the 80s and 90s, and the one that just put me over the top was he has like, do you remember in the mid 90s? I think it was when Cherry Coke did that rebrand.
Yeah, they had like the really weird, like almost static can with like a red label. Yeah, it was fucking sweet, edgy.
Yeah. So he has one of those big drums that you like that convenience stores would like throw ice in. Yeah. Oh, so he has one of those of that.
Nice.
It's just like you've committed. Like there's I don't know. I can't possibly imagine you are married to somebody because there is no way that somebody. I love that this is a Twitter feed and you took a picture of it, but this is as far as my enjoyment goes with that. Like seeing this picture and getting reminded of it. Meanwhile, you have to own this thing and have it stored amazing. Somewhere.
That's probably where he hides his wife's body is the 55-gallon drums of Coke. Yeah, that's wild. That's what a weird genre of things to collect too. Like when you're getting down to like paper wrapping and like packaging and.
Yeah, like one of them was like he framed some like burger wrappers from Burger King.
Does he get them new or he like cleans them off of burgers?
I don't know if he gets them off. I mean, these are old, so I don't know. Yeah. I don't know where he's getting them from. If they're like from eBay or something or what, but
it's wild.
I highly suggest following him on Twitter. He's got all of it on his website. I think it's dinosaurdracula.com, which is just his blog with all this stuff. He also does a podcast, which I've never heard, but
let's check it out. Sounds interesting. I like those little nostalgia nuggets on Twitter too. I mean, granted, a lot of people do that, but nobody's that I'm following is doing that. So
yeah, nobody has it in their possession most of the time,
Right. It's always it's like a screen grab, right?
Yep.
That's cool. Just looking it up now.
Yeah, it's the amount of Happy Meal stuff that he's had, and he goes hard into. He has like a big ecto cooler, high C ecto cooler collection, and
oh man, that's just the best. I was explaining to my kids, or trying to explain to my kids and my wife. My wife couldn't remember it, but like, do you remember like they were only around for maybe 2 years, and it was like the same shape as bubblegum or bubble yum, but they had 7-Up, Dr. Pepper, and A&W soda, and then like inside each gum there was like a liquid gel of like the concentrated pop syrup. So good.
Really? Huh.
Oh, why does nobody remember this but me?
This was a candy. This was a candy?
It was a gum. Yeah, but think bubble yum, but it was the soda branded, and then inside the center of it was like this little gel syrup that tasted like the soda.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. It didn't last long, but like I definitely remember getting it. The 7-Up one for sure.
Yeah, that's That's interesting. The candy factory I used to work at, they used to make gummies that were all of those. That must be like an easy brand to like license their
Get
syrup for.
right. Yeah, it's funny.
It's-
I was just watching a stream where the candy company was featured. I was watching Russ Lyman. He's like, he has like a snack time, and he like just eats a snack on camera in his stream, and it was that Wiley Wallaby or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Licorice. I was like, hey, that's made like 2 hours for me. It's not as Australian as advertised. And he was like, oh yeah. Like, yep. I'm like, still fucking good, but yeah, that's funny. All right. So my pick goes back to Omaha Pop Culture Exchange. I got Blink-182 Neighborhoods on vinyl, which I think everyone should give that album a listen. Like, I don't really like much. I mean, I listen to everything they put out, but I don't genuinely like enjoy and go back to anything of theirs really before. I'd say Enema of the State. I don't even listen to basically before that. The first 3 records, like Dude Ranch, Cheshire Cat, and Buddha, are the ones I like. But this album's really good. Like, it's weird because it was right after they broke up for like 5 years. They never really got back together, put the album together in separate places, from what I understand. So it was like Mark and Travis, and then Tom doing his own thing. And then they broke up again right after that, like 2 years later, after never really doing much. So it's kind of a unique record in their discography because it doesn't really sound like anything else. There's a lot of like synth pop and stuff in there.
So, when did this one come out?
2011, 2013, 2011, 2013. No, they broke up in 2013 again. So I think they put this out in 2011 because they broke up after Take Off Your Pants and Jacket.
This is like peak Travis Barker reality show era.
Yeah, it might have been just after that, or maybe he was still on. Yeah, I mean, peak. I mean, he's a Kardashian now. So
well, yeah, I suppose.
But yeah, and it was like when they got back together because I think this is when they got back together after his plane crash. So like,
oh yeah,
2011. It just felt like a record that was like half in, half out. I feel like Tom didn't genuinely want to come back. It's just like, oh, we almost lost our friend. Like, let's do this thing, and because he was very much about Angels and Airwaves back then, which was doing really well. Which I think a lot of Angels and Airwaves is just pretentious trash.
I'd have to go back and listen to that. I haven't.
They have so many records.
A long time.
Really?
I thought it was just the one.
No, they have a ton. They just put out an album like 2 years ago.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't like it. I've never have. I don't really love this album either. I just think it's like so weird. I hadn't listened to it forever. I just knew like you don't see it often, so I was gonna grab it. I listened to it last night, and I was like, yeah, this is a really wild record for like Blink-182. I don't know. So, and then supposedly they have a new album coming out this year, which I'm sure will be meh. But everyone's gonna love it because it's Tom.
They'll play it pretty safe, I'm sure.
Yeah,
on that one.
Probably. Well, is it time?
We're gonna go
weekend rental.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get into it. Weekend rental this episode. If you're not familiar, weekend rental is a game we pick and we play. We each give our opinions as to whether we would buy, rent, or burn them. It's always a game for a given system. System this time is my favorite, as everyone knows, the Nintendo 64. And the game that we decided to play, because it was just recently added, was the Excite Bike, not Byte. Be a weird game. Excite Bike 64, which came out in 2000, I saw, which seems crazy to me when I saw that loading it up. And yeah, I don't know how to feel about this. It wasn't one I really played at all on the 64. I maybe like threw it in for a couple minutes at one point, but I feel like it. I mean, granted, this is the sequel to an NES game, so they probably had to take some liberty, but like the NES game was an arcadey action game, and then they decided like, no, we're gonna flesh this out into like a mostly proper but not quite motocross game, which fit well with the time.
Yeah, there was a
This
ton
is
of these.
right. This is peak like Metal Militia and like all those ATV quad and off road games, or the start. This is like the start of that. So it lines up with it, but like it's weird because it's like super on par with like realism. There's like cross promotion through brands, and yeah, it just doesn't. I don't know. I have an idea what Excite Bike is in that series is in my head, and this feels nowhere near that, other than the
No,
name.
no. I mean, it does have the temperature thing. I mean,
Sure.
but that's not much of a mechanic in this type of game anymore. You know,
Right.
it's it's not quite like the original where you really had uh really accurate control
Right.
of how you were going to land and how far you were going to go. Kind of, this is kind of so much more variable that there's no that's just out the window. I mean, you can do that in this game, but
Right.
the odds of you actually landing perfect on the downside of a hill, it's probably not going to happen in this game.
Yeah, and it's like almost the game punishes you for the thing it wants you to do, right? Like at the end of the day, Excite Bike, the original at least, is all about rhythm, right? It's all about physics, it's all about pitch, it's about timing your jumps and landing accordingly. But as you mentioned, there's so much float and inconsistency in the controls that the thing that you want to be doing because it's Excite Bike in your head, the game also punishes you for because it's just not responsive enough to allow you to repeat those moves accurately. So you're always better off playing it safe and just avoiding the tricks and like avoiding the big jump. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, which sucks.
Yeah. I just don't think you could do the original in a 3D world. It's just not the same type of game.
Right, but they kind of did with Excite Truck, right? Like they still somehow managed to capture most of what that felt like. I mean,
I'd have to go back to that one. I don't,
because that one has like the
remember
morphing terrain. Like you can like set up your own jumps, but like your pitch
Mhm.
very much, you know, in the rhythm. I don't know. I
Mhm.
mean, they both take great liberties from the original game, but yeah, this one, I feel like they didn't have to nail it as much. I just wish they would have like Nintendo-ified it more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this definitely feels like it was not. This feels like somebody pitched them with
Right.
I stole the I stole the code from Jeremy McGrath's like Supercross 2000. So
Right.
let's knock it off and make our own.
And just seeing the N Sports logo too, and like it just reminded me like this is basically
Oh
like
yeah.
Nintendo's version of 989 is like kind of what this
Mhm.
felt to me. And I never won a heat, and I really started getting sad after a while when I had finished those sessions, and I'd get the same gif of the guy saying "You lose." I'm like, "Fuck you! I tried, man. I did." Because you don't even win for like first, second, and third. Like it's you get first
Nope,
or you're a loser.
you're done.
Yeah, it's harsh.
Yep. That
Made on
announcer,
novice.
all he's just worried about what you're doing. He doesn't care what anybody else is doing.
Right.
He's just reporting everybody to the whole stands, everybody that on what you specifically are doing in this race.
And if it's my case, it's eating shit. So
Yep. It does have good voice. I mean, it's a lot of voice samples in a cartridge game, I guess.
Well, yeah, and I will like to that point, I will give this game some credit, and like I think this plays remarkably well for what it is on the platform that it came out on. It's just racing games have gotten so much better since then, and I also don't think that having the controls mapped over off of a 64 onto the Switch Joy-Con
Ooh.
is particularly fun to play. It's a little counterintuitive when you figure out, you know, like where the Z trigger would be and all that stuff on a 64 controller. So,
I
yeah,
still was not exactly sure how to pull off tricks the way I wanted to. Like I knew the button that you had to press, but it was just doing random tricks. I don't know if there was a way to, if it's like Tony Hawk where you whatever way the stick's pointing. I don't know.
Yeah,
I couldn't figure it out.
I never got there either. I struggled just enough to try and figure out like their takeoff and landing mechanics because like there just seemed to be no consistency in that either.
Yeah.
Like I thought I was pitching the same, but I guess I'm not. And I think what really kills this game above all else is just that fucking locked camera perspective. Like that doesn't work when you have like more than 90-degree sharpness turns every like 2 seconds. Like it's so bad. And considering it's 4x3 too, so you get like none of the side perspective.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, corners are rough in this game, I'll say. I mean, you can slide around them, but it's tough to know exactly when to stop sliding.
I just hate too that it carried over the physics of the original game where like if you clip into the backside of anybody, you die. Like they throw so many NPCs. Like even if you're doing great and you're in first place, it's like they just want you to trip up and crash into people and eat shit.
At least they don't force you to get off the side of the track. And
that's true, I guess. Like run back, yeah. I did instinctively find myself tapping the button though, even though it does nothing. Or at least I don't think it does. But yeah, there's too many times with like between fighting the controls to get a takeoff right and the locked camera perspective. There's just too many times where you're on a track, you go over a jump, and you're 10 feet off to one side or the other, which is better than crashing because at least I start moving. So it's like, oh, okay, I'll take this penalty over the hitting a pole. But the fact that it's that much of blind faith, and like, I wouldn't even say blind faith. It's just there's so much of fighting the game in that regard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you feel like you're trying to do it, and like nothing ever, no corner, no jump, at least for me, never felt the same twice. I felt like I was always fighting the engine.
Yeah, I played a lot of these type of games back in the day, and I don't remember playing this one too much. And it really pales in comparison. You got those EA ones that are kind of built on the SSX stuff.
Yep.
And those feel good. The ATV Off-Road Fury games, those are amazing. The one that they made before that was Motocross Madness. Is that what it was?
Sounds right.
On the PC. That I played that one so much. But that was just like an open desert that you just were able to just cruise around, and that one felt so good. And then in this, they have that open desert thing where you can race, and that's kind of fun. But man, you have the collision detection on the different little fires that you need to drive over in the desert was almost impossible to do in a correct manner. I thought they executed terribly on that.
I don't even think I didn't even check out that mode. I just did the
main races, yeah.
The tracks, yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. There's a Rocket League thing in here. I didn't unlock it. There's a soccer, but there's like you can unlock the original in this game, and then there was a Excite Bike 3D, it was called, on the bottom.
Oh.
I didn't unlock it to play what it was, but it just looked like it was maybe the original in a 3D perspective. Like an isometric 3D kind of. I don't know.
I wonder if there's like a cheat code to punch in and unlock all that stuff.
I was hoping to get back to that and try that out, but yeah, I didn't get to it.
Huh. I'll have to check that out. One more note is like, I think thing that kind of kills this game is like, I think the biggest downfall in playing it as far as like enjoyment and then just again performance and handling is the fact that there is absolutely no sense of speed in this game at any point, which makes judging corners and anything difficult because apparently you're going like 85 miles an hour, but as far as I can tell, it's like 2 frames a second. So it's rough.
Yeah, I could definitely tell you. I could definitely see that. Yeah, because you hit that turbo button, it doesn't feel like you're really like boosting.
Nope.
Doesn't feel like you're really hitting turbo.
Yeah. Yeah, and the game doesn't do anything to help that. I mean, in track design, it's very sparse for a lot. I mean, the indoor ones, I guess there's more stuff to make it seem like you're flying by things, but the outdoor stuff is pretty bare bones. And I didn't appreciate that they tried to do some like fun shortcutty type things. It's
Mhm.
just they shouldn't have made them so impossible to execute on.
Yeah,
Like that's
you
the
end up it's not
worst part.
worth
No.
taking them.
Especially when they want you to hit something that's like, 4 inches big and like I can barely keep this thing on the main track. I don't think it's gonna
Mhm.
happen. So yeah.
It looks good on the Switch, though. I mean, these
Yeah.
models are very sharp. This is the model from that. It's very sharp.
Yeah, like the underlying like polygons and design, like I mean, again, not play design, but like visual design is very good for a 64 game, I think. Granted, I know when you're playing it, it does say that it's using the expansion pack. I don't know what that did. Probably removed fog, maybe some of the extra features. I don't
Yeah.
know.
There was in the options, there's a high res option
Oh, really?
that was off, and then it turned on, and I didn't see any difference, but I don't know.
You need a tube TV, probably.
Yeah. It's, yeah. I think they did lose some sponsors, like I think we were talking about how I don't think Fox Racing is in this game as the original one was, but we got
Yeah,
no fear.
I don't like. Yeah, I didn't like the brand tie-in. I also didn't like that they felt the need to give every arbitrary character a name, and that most of those names sound like bad porn star names, like Vicky Steele and like
uh,
Jim Throbbin. I don't. His last name's not Throbbin, but
Nigel something.
yeah, Steve. Yeah, the Nigel. Yeah, there was like a snake one.
Oh,
Yeah, it's weird. Like it's weird that it's a Nintendo IP on like a very Nintendo centric console. Like of all of them, like if they were gonna Nintendo Fi Excite Bike, this feels like the iteration they would have done it on, and they just didn't. It's
yeah.
it's fine for what it is. I don't think I would ever pick it back up. Like I saw somebody saying like, "Oh, this is better than Wave Race." I'm like, I don't know that
Oh,
that's true. I don't think I would. I don't like Wave Race that much either, but I definitely like that a lot better than this.
at least with Wave Race, you can justify the control because it's like, well, it's on water. What do you expect?
Sure. Yeah, it's
You know,
supposed to kind of control like shit. Yeah.
this does not feel good. I would say. There's a lot of other, especially on the PlayStation, I would say that feel a lot better than this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kept what I kept thinking about too is like, man, the PlayStation really did well with racing in that generation. But yeah, I started thinking like some of those games too, like even Sledstorm's a fair comparison on like how that
Mhm.
should handle compared to this. And like Sledstorm was so much better. So yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out if so. The one guy who wears red, his name is Ricky Stern. He's really good at tricks and stuff like that. Um, basically Ricky Carmichael at that point. So
Sure.
I'm
Yeah.
wondering, like,
Did
if
they try
any
to
of
get
these,
people? Yeah.
yeah, where there's other ones that they're trying to, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe they had pitched it, and I can't imagine Nintendo probably wouldn't have allowed actual names on an Excite Bike, in their roster. I wouldn't think,
Yeah,
right?
I,
At that point, you'd almost have to do like a actual motocross game.
yeah,
It's
I
tough
don't
to
know.
say.
Yeah, they did brands, so they kind of went halfway there, I guess. But
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know.
it's a weird one. I mean, you don't hear people talk about this one a lot, so I think people remember Excite Truck and Excite Bots more than they remember this.
Hmm.
I mean, of course, the Wii was a juggernaut compared to the 64, so makes sense. But
Yeah, this just doesn't feel like an Excite Bike game.
right, I agree.
It's a rebrand.
Well, what do you give it on the Byron Burn scale?
I think I'm going to burn this one because I really liked and enjoyed a lot of these games, and this one just feels like garbage, and it's generic, and it's disappointing that it has an Excite Bike name on it
Right.
when it doesn't have that vibe to it.
Yeah, I can get behind that. I think I'd go Rent. I think like I don't think it should be called Excite Bike. If it was called anything else, I'd
Mhm.
probably be like, this is fine. It's more disappointing because it's Excite Bike and it's just a mediocre game. But I think this is kind of one of those racing games where it's something like I would have gotten into when I was younger, where yeah, it's jank and like it's all memorization and learning how to like play in this shit physics sandbox. But I think if I had it for a weekend and this is the only game I had to play, I could make that work and I don't know if I'd be enjoying my time, but I'd at least make it through the game. So I could give it a little bit of time, but I probably won't ever again.
Yeah.
It's the beauty of a rental. It's like you don't have to pick it back up, right?
The amount of times that I just got shoved off a bike for no reason, that it didn't feel like I should have crashed on most of that stuff. So
I put the game down multiple times, like mid races, because it's just like no. Like I was in first, and then I got clipped by an NPC character, and then I got back up and got fucking ran over by another character. Now I'm in sixth place. It's the last lap. I'm screwed. Yeah, that is an all too frequent occurrence.
Yep.
Do better, Nintendo 64.
Yeah, I wonder. So I did see something that most of the games that they announced a year ago that were coming to this, there's a few that still are not out.
Oh, like what?
I'm not sure which ones it were, but when they announced the 64 coming out on Switch, they had like a whole roster that they were showed, and
yeah, I do remember that.
some of them still aren't out yet, and it's like, what? Just put the ROM up. What is?
Yeah.
What's the big deal?
You own the IP most likely. Just
Yeah.
put it out. Yeah.
I wonder if they run into things like this where like some of the C buttons are pretty integral on this game.
Oh, sure.
While you're driving too. So it's like, how do
Yeah.
you map that correctly on a Switch controller? But
That's what they get the upsell on you and trying to get you that 64 controller for way too much money.
mm-hmm.
Well, that complete the episode.
That's the end of this thing.
Huzzah.
Friends, if you are on Twitter, X, one of the two, you can reach out to us at Weekend Rental Podcast. We also have a Gmail account, weekendrentalpodcast@gmail.com. Tell us why we're wrong. I'm sure there's some N64 apologists out there that would say, no, this is the one. Even though there was probably better Supercross games even on 64.
Mm-hmm.
But go ahead, email us. Sign up for Geekade Patreon. You can hear, a movie podcast that we do.
Where we get all the names of the characters completely accurate. Because we wouldn't get that wrong. We're professionals.
We're very professional, I would say. Yep.
Nailed it.
But until next time, be kind, rewind. No fear.
No nuts. These nuts.